Hi everyone. In this long-awaited video, I'll show you how I implemented David Allen's GTD system, getting things done, using the Microsoft OneNote app. If you're new here, I'm a certified math and physics teacher in Ontario who holds a master's degree in statistics. David Allen's Getting Things Done book is often considered the productivity Bible and #1 book you should read if you want to start getting things done, as the title implies. To summarize the book in one sentence, David Allen says, your brain is for having ideas, not for storing them. So the idea is to, every time you have an idea, to write it down on a piece of paper or in today's day and age in an app. And then David built this whole system to process this information, because a lot of people take information down, but there's no system to go around it, and creates a lot of issues. And additionally, we'll use Tiago Forte's building a second brain concept, and I'll link to all those things below, and you'll see timestamps as well below. So make sure to check that out. I recommend both books. Although the Getting Things Done book is a bit dated, you need more tutorials on how to implement it with today's technology, which is where Tiago comes in. So to structure this video, we'll use Tiago's framework of code and para. So code stands for collect information, organize it, distill it, and then express it. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is to collect information. On the screen, you can see my phone here, and I said that I'm gonna use Microsoft OneNote. And Microsoft OneNote isn't the best software. It's just, as a math teacher, I have a Surface Pro, and I like the fact that I can write using my Surface Pen on the screen. So I knew how to use OneNote, and then I'm like, oh, well, it's a note-taking app, so it's probably good for GTD. So I just started out with OneNote, and the actual app itself doesn't really matter that much, as long as it has a few key features. And maybe I can link to one of Tiago's interview where he describes like the key features that an app needs to have. This is my phone. This is a OneNote badge that you can activate in the app. It's just in the settings, and when I click on it, I have title, I can untitle page and stuff, but this is gonna go directly to my Getting Things Done system. I set up so that the default location is in my quick notes, which I'll show you shortly. So let's say I had a thought about take a note of outline, something like that. And then let's say that I already have my outline of this video, so I can click on the camera, and I have this is live here. I'm just taking a picture. It scans everything automatically. So I have this here. It works well. So I confirm, I just add it like this, and then I click the check mark, and now like in a few seconds this note is going to appear in my OneNote software on my desktop, and it's synced across all platforms, which is pretty cool. I tend not to struggle too much thinking like, oh, what should I collect? Like, what should I write down? Every time I have a thought like, oh, is this going to be useful? This might be useful later. Then I just write it down, and worst case, I just delete the note or archive it, and I can always search it later on. So I don't put too much thought into it, but over time, you'll build this intuition of what's useful, what type of notes you want to take, and how much detail you want to add. And the more you go, my hint, and this is what happened to me and many other GTD fellows, is that they take less and less notes, and they distill it more in the collection process. So this is my OneNote on my desktop. You can see that by default, my take a note of outline went on my desktop. Did a pretty good job, and it goes in the quick notes by default. And then I have other quick notes. So for example, here is just a reminder to plan my week. I usually tend to do the organization part of the GTD system on Sundays. That's usually my day off, where I tend to plan my week, review stuff. And I put this picture here because I have a gym membership with Carleton University. So that goes into planning my week. Now that I think about it, I can make it a sub page, because it is like under planning your week. And then this is some podcast notes that I took while walking. but I found a better way to do this now with the Snip app that is pretty good. So I'll link to a video tutorial of that. But now I have enough notes to create like a good article. That was a great fitness podcast on the Huberman Lab. So this I would put in projects, right? Because this is a project that I'm working on. So within the organized, there's 4 categories that you put according to Tiago Forte. It's para, right? So project, areas, resources, and archives. So this would be a project. And I don't use this thing personally. I think that's a little bit, I didn't tend to go on the OneNote app to work on my project. Instead, I use the Microsoft To-Do app, which is a better to-do list task manager. And I created a nice tutorial that people seem to like. So again, that's up here. And so I would put that in like write article for Andy Galpin notes. And then I have it in my to-do app. And then this was just, I went down a rabbit hole of Bayesian statistics. This is using my Readwise Steven Pinker. That's what it made me think. So I'm probably gonna brainstorm an article. So again, that would go in my Notion of content creation, because that's how I manage all my content creation. I'll probably make a video on that eventually. This is a thing where I jotted down some ideas for my newsletter, because my newsletter gets built like over a month, right? So over the month, every time I have an idea of like, oh, this is a good newsletter thing, I write it down on my phone, takes 2 seconds, and then my newsletter writes itself over a month. So it's the idea of always having things cooking on low heat, like a slow cooker. So slow burns instead of heavy lifts. Ali Abdal talks about this idea all the time here. So again, I would put that in my Microsoft To-Do app, or even in my Notion, or I might go in MailChimp and actually just write it down in my newsletter right away. And then this is an action, so add script. This should be snipped. I made a typo. So snipped to favorites on my website. So again, that would go in Microsoft To Do. That's an action. That's a project. P hacking and data snooping. I'm doing stats research right now, and the researcher is like basically asking me to data snoop, and I was trying to like come up with reasons why, like good reasons why it's not good. So again, this would go in, I'm trying to think, it is a project, but I also want it as a reference. So personally, I just created a reference notebook in OneNote where I put all my references. So my areas and my resources and my archives are just in a reference notebook. And I might have like a money section. I might have a statistics section. So these 2 notes here, I would just go right click, move to, and then I would go back and like reference and then statistics, right? And then take a note of outline. That would be, I would delete that once it's in the Microsoft To Do app. So we've collected some notes, we've organized it. The next step is to distill the information. So if I look at Andy Galpin's notes here, this is pretty rough, right? Like that's not gonna be my article, although I could honestly post some raw notes. There's typos and stuff like that. But the distilling aspect is mostly done after you collected the information. You might be able to distill it while you collect it, but you want to decrease the amount of friction there, okay? So I would distill this into what are the takeaways. I'm writing an article and I'll post it on my blog. So we have COD, we're missing E for code, and it's for express. To express ourselves, it's to exactly like this example, is to write a blog article, it's to work on your projects, it's to share your information. Let's say I take notes in Notion, I can just share the page, which I've done. In Readwise, I share quotes. So it's really, the whole point of this system is to express yourself. It's to use this, it's to act on it and offload your brain. If this seems like way too much for you, I would recommend to scrap all of this and just keep it simple to start. Like most people take notes already, right? Like I used to take book notes in the book, and then I never look back at them and so on, right? So let's say grocery lists. Oh, we're running out of ketchup. Well, then they write it out on a post-it on the fridge. Well, you can centralize your system so you can search and have everything in one place. So I would recommend to start easy. So maybe create like a birthday and Christmas gift list in your system, whichever app you end up with. So then every time you have an idea of like, oh, this would be a good gift, then it goes into that. Every time you're missing something on your grocery list, goes into that. And you'll see your system will just build itself over time. And I would recommend starting with a minimalist system and adding as needed instead of doing like what I did. And I just downloaded a GTD OneNote template, imported all of that, and I end up not using half the stuff, and that's completely fine. And then I branched out to other apps like Microsoft To Do, Readwise, Notion for my Kindle highlights and stuff. And that's completely fine. You'll be able to design your GTD environment using what tools work for you. And that's the best recommendation I can give you. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. You're probably also going to enjoy the playlist and videos I created just for you that you should see appearing on the screen. And as always, thank you for doing the work.